but you can't build a relationship over the phone or on a video or through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The only way you do that is in person.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Recruiting Alchemy. I'm joined today by James Ballard, co-founder of Annapurna Recruitment, a professional staffing and services business across HR, GTM and tech, operating UK, Germany, Europe and further afield. I love James's story because it's been a story of kind of international growth and a real combination of building products and services, something that I'm really passionate about for his audience, and I'm looking forward to learning more about that today. But first of all, thanks a lot for joining me.
Mate, pleasure to be here.
Nice one. We finally made it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I love this studio, mate. You've done so well.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's all right. Thank you, man. Yeah, people like it when they come in. It's it's got a bit of something going on, so it's nice. Look, we start every episode with the same format, two beginnings. So the first beginning is a bit about you, the genesis story of James Ballard. And then the second beginning, and this is, I think, the one that people are most interested in. Our audience typically are recruitment leaders, CEOs, but often they're interested in what was it that inspired and motivated you to start your own company. Annapurna is a very well-established business, 16, 17 years old now. So, market leader in your category. But yeah, start us off with a tale of where it all began.
Well, without wanting to bore anybody too much. As you know, mate, I grew up in Yorkshire.
Where, Harrogate?
In Harrogate,
Posh Yorkshire.
Posh part of Yorkshire, yeah, on the council estate. But I worked really hard to get decent grades to be able to go to university. And then in university, sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had the opportunity to run for an election post. So I represented students for the University of Nottingham, which was amazing. Met the Queen, Prince Philip, got flown to Harvard, wrote something for the back of the Times Higher. And then, finished that. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Met this recruiter and he said, "Oh, well, you like representing and meeting people?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Do you want to earn some money?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds great." And obviously my mates had just moved down to London. So I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a go. And started at SThree in the year 2000.
Wow.
Probably giving away my age a little bit there. No, don't look it, but...
Take us back 1 second.
Yeah.
So you're the president of the Students' Union.
Vice president.
Vice president. Is that a paid job?
It was paid.
Salary? Is that a full-time salary job?
I was paid £12,000 for the year.
Wow.
And it was the best job ever, honestly.
Was that you just trying to keep the dream alive?
I was really passionate about helping people. I sort of still am. I thought it was a real privilege to be able to represent students, and I was the education officer, so I represented students that were being terminated from their courses.
Right.
So it was,
so people who are having real problems.
Yeah, yeah. So it was.
Will you advocate for them? Is that
I was advocating for them not to be taken off their course, and I did okay. There was only one student I didn't manage to get back on their course. He was a medical student, and obviously they had very high standards for medicine. So, I tried my best and, helped a few people.
Amazing. So you moved to London.
Yeah.
The bright lights, streets are paved with gold.
Yeah.
You joined SThree in the year 2000.
In the year 2000, yeah.
Was that, for some of our younger audience that are not our age,
yeah,
Y2K, big thing. Was it good or bad?
I just missed that.
Right.
So it was going crazy in 1999 for Y2K.
Yeah.
I started just as it was rubbish, and it actually wasn't rubbish. It was all right, but yeah, recruitment was so different. What year did you start in recruitment?
2003.
All right. Well, you're not far behind.
Not far behind.
You look about 20 years younger than I do.
I don't know about that.
But
I don't know about that.
But for us, there was LinkedIn wasn't really a thing. I remember people waiting on a Monday morning, waiting for the CVs to be delivered in the post. There's a mad rush for to get the best CV and get on the phone. Yeah. Faxing CVs across.
From the ads that you'd put in the paper, probably.
Yeah. It was completely different. Yeah. And, if we're being candid, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'd said to the recruiter, "It's not a sales job, is it?" And he was like, "Oh, no. But obviously it was, and I wouldn't say it was Wolf of Wall Street back then, but it was pretty hardcore sales, And I don't really know why I stuck at it, to be honest, apart from, I really like the people. And I really like the opportunity of building something. As you know, mate, I've always been quite competitive.
Yes.
Yes. So the opportunity to prove myself against myself and others, I saw as quite a challenge. And first year or so, didn't do very well. But then, over time, built relationships with people and then started to do okay. So I was there for 8 years, and when I left, it was a bit like the Nelson Mandela Freedom Walk, It was like a skate, because I was suited and booted every day with tie done up 5 days a week. If you remember this, I think it was like this when you were there.
Yeah.
Minute past 9, you got to stay till 7:30. Minute late from lunchtime, stay till 7:30, cover the phones. And it was pretty regimented. So it was a strange environment, really, when you look back at it. But that's what it was. And in 2008, our good friend Nigel, approached me. We'd gone to I think it was the PDC darts. He's like, "Mate, I've had enough. I'm going to do my own thing." I was like, "Okay, well, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to set up a firm and do HR recruitment." I was like, "Well, that sounds pretty cool. I'll come with you." And he was like, "Yeah." And so we approached our third party, another good mate of ours, obviously Charlie the legend. And we decided to set up Annapurna. And the point about Annapurna was it was meant to be something a little bit different, because we'd come from the ultimate transactional recruitment firm where, you put enough stuff at the wall, some will stick, But actually, we were always a little bit different than that. I alluded to earlier that I was relationship builder. And I believe if you look after people, they come back to you. And as you know, Nigel's a big sort of mountaineer, and Annapurna is a Nepalese mountain, but also means goddess of fertility in Hindi. So it's about building something and giving something back, not being another double-barreled, triple-barreled name, but actually having something that when we spoke to people, we could say with pride and, represent. And we sort of went from there.
And when you made the leap, 8 years in one firm, especially a firm with that kind of culture, is quite a long time. People describe themselves as various levels of institutionalized. Do you remember how you felt? Was it an easy call? Were you bricking it? Was it like, nah, I'm ready? Was it?
I do remember it, actually. It was hard, obviously, because I had a lot of respect for the managers that were in place, but we felt like we'd missed the boat a little bit, become a PLC, didn't feel like we were stretching ourselves, and we genuinely thought we could do things differently. To like what everybody else was doing. Not everybody else, but, 99% of recruiters were Me Too, transactional, get on the phone and then, sell some CVs and that sort of sticks. That wasn't really our sort of mantra. And so we really believed in it. And we set up in 2008, which obviously the Lehman crash had just happened. People said, "You're crazy, what are you doing?" But actually, it's the perfect time to start in many ways, because you look after people. They then go into their next job and hopefully they take you with them. I remember one of the first meetings we had was to go to Woolies. To Woolworths, the old Woolworths, So we went into the headquarters and do you remember Pick and Mix? It's like the Pick and Mix in the corner with no Pick and Mix, one of the hoses hanging off. We went in and there was all these HR folk obviously having to restructure the organisation, and they really valued the fact that we looked after them all. And obviously from there, they spread out into all these new retail businesses, and some of them took us with them effectively and became great clients of ours. And we never really looked back from that.
I'd really love to just talk about something you've said there, which is about relationship building and I guess not being transactional recruiters. Because I think the problem that everyone has today is I think it was Bullhorn released a report last year that said customer churn in the staffing industry averages 40% per annum. So 40% of customers you deal with this year, you will not do business with next year. And the nature of that is because you're so replaceable, you're so homogenized. It's just another Me Too, another brand. You've been, as far as I can tell, you were leading the way 15 years ago on products, solutions, services that elevated your brand, if you like, beyond traditional staffing. And you were a front runner in that space all way back then, and it's become more popular and more common now. But tell us a bit about your vision for your business back then, and how that vision has manifested, or how it manifested into real life, and where that story has led you to.
I think you've got to be memorable, right? People buy people, but they also buy what you're offering them in terms of product. And so many businesses to me weren't standing out. So we just stumbled upon this idea of community. And I think, I think you're right. I think we were probably up there and one of the first to sort of really invest heavily in the idea of community, which for us was, putting on lots of events, putting on lots of content, putting out media. And yeah, obviously many companies are doing that now, but we really believed in it. And, it didn't make us any money to start with. As you know, you put a lot of money in terms of investing in content, investing in, hiring things out, whether that be venues or whatever. And people that come along to these events, they may not be looking for work recruiting or not, but we really believed in the idea of relationships and they would come back to us. So it's always been at the core of our business. And, I think it did make us stand out a bit. But obviously, as you know, you've got to continually evolve in what is an ever-changing and rapidly, technically sort of advancing sort of industry. And maybe, people caught up with us a little bit. But it was nice to feel like we were right at the vanguard of that. And I know awards don't mean anything, but, we had amazing awards nights where when we went to Recruit Awards and we won 3 awards in one night. And I was like, this is brilliant. It just like validates what you're doing. And, for your employees to come back to you and like love working for the company, for clients to say you've done a great job and you stand out, it really makes a difference. And that's what keeps me going 25 years in. I still enjoy the day job of being a recruiter / relationship builder. That's pretty cool. I feel really privileged that I get to do some amazing stuff. Like, this morning I went to meet a FTSE 100 client. I fly over to Berlin and meet like all these e-commerce businesses, like, center of industry. I think that's really amazing. So, I've loved most of it. The bit I haven't enjoyed is like, it's been some tough times, as we know, mate, over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think you got to be very resilient, but also like have a real purpose of why you're doing things and a vision. Otherwise, I think it catches up with you. But yeah, most of it's been really fun, and I feel very lucky to have had the career that I've had.
On that subject of community, what does that mean to you? If I'm an ambitious recruitment professional today, thinking about my own business or a business that I might want to build, and the word community is quite a broad word. Yeah. To me, it starts with giving value. Yes. Without asking for something in return.
I think that's right.
But what does that value look like to you?
Well, I think as recruiters, people value the network that you can create for them. So I think one essential we find when we put our events on, we bring people together who have similar interests, maybe a similar level of seniority, that want to get to know each other but wouldn't have. I think that's building a community, but also it can't just be a one-off thing. It's got to be something you consistently do. So I think if you are creating content, you're putting people in touch with each other, there's a lot of value to that. Now, I used to joke to the guys in the team, but like I thought that we had like $1 billion, sort of idea with like, we called it originally the HR Transformation Network, then it's called the BTN, and now it's called Erupt, it's this community idea. Because it's not just us that want to access the sort of people that might be in that network. And obviously we want to sort of build relationships with extremely senior people who are decision makers in industry, as do, other partners. But, we've never been a tech firm, so how do you monetize it? Where does that come from? For us, the major way that we've delivered value has been we provide services that then have a knock-on effect to building relationships with people that might then use us for recruitment.
But with absolutely no guarantee, right?
No guarantee.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to take that
100%.
risk. Put your money where your mouth is, and
I mean,
because they're not cheap, right? These events, you've got to. They're significant investments.
I mean, on average, I'd say it's like $3,000 to $5,000 for an event. Plus, not just that, focusing people on inviting people to an event when it's hard enough to get them on the phone to sort of speak to anybody anyway, to ask them about what their needs are for the business. So it's you got to be prepared, I think, to do things slightly differently. You got to believe in it, but I really do believe in it. And actually, when we do some of these events, I see the sorts of people that come now and the feedback we get, it's extremely gratifying. And it's also lovely that, we've had like an evolution as a firm, as everybody's had to over the last 4 years. We've thought about who we want to be and how we want to deliver that. But the people underneath myself and Nigel all want to do this now as well. They all believe in it, as the way that we go to market effectively, So I think it's quite cool, and actually, it's really exciting to build something out that hopefully people want to listen to or come to, and see where that can take us into the future.
Do you think the concept of community has changed in a social media age? And what I mean by that is, when you started in 2007, we didn't have the social media landscape we have today. So people looking for connection were doing it physically. And as time has worn on, that more of that connection has become digital, right? But you've remained, I think, maybe you'll correct me if I'm wrong, committed to the concept of in real life.
Yes.
As a medium.
Yes.
Do you think people's appetite for in real life has grown or changed or diminished?
I think it's come back over the last year or two. You know, obviously during the pandemic, we couldn't meet people very easily. And actually that made things advance in other ways, you know, in terms of like, we weren't doing video calls.
Yeah.
We weren't doing video interviews before the year 2012. Well, not many people were anyway. Yeah. Completely revolutionized how sort of recruitment was delivered. But you can't build a relationship over the phone or on a video or through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The only way you do that is in person. And I think, you know, we're at this precipice in every way at the moment, from society, from an economic point of view, about what's going to happen with the world. And there's so much, so many things that we don't know that I think people really value coming together and validating, well, we're thinking about doing this way.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we're going to do that as well. Okay, cool. Well, at least I know when I go to my stakeholders and try and sign this off, that I'm not crazy. But actually, this is what we believe in. Because there's no easy decisions to be made in business currently, I don't think. And then obviously you add to that, we're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, you know, with technology and AI, you know, it's like, it's madness.
And I think for me, that's why, you know, we created this space, because I was looking for a podcast agency or provider to start my own this podcast actually.
Yeah.
And everyone was trying to sell me an online podcast. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. But this is more than a studio. It's a meeting place. It's a place of connection. That's why there's a bar and a coffee, you know, that's why this is not just, and for me, it was the vitality or the enduring vitality of meeting people in person is you can't replicate it. You just can't replicate it. Whereas I think the whole work from home culture, the whole fully remote, we see each other. It's just not quite the same. And it's hard to, and as you've rightly pointed out, a very unpredictable economic environment coupled with the fourth industrial revolution around AI. Who knows where the world will be in 5 years? But I think there'll be a rush back to the concept of human connection.
100%.
And I think that's why community is probably more, not just important, but more profitable than ever, if you can excel and own that space. Yeah,
I mean, if you think about where recruitment's going, obviously technology is having a massive impact in terms of automation. You know, you can identify talent instantly now, using LinkedIn or whatever. But how are we going to add value? It's got to be the human element, and that has to be about understanding people, again, about building relationships, about being able to activate talent that, our competition is not necessarily other recruitment companies now, it's the companies themselves.
Yeah.
So if we go to market, we've got to be able to activate people that they can't.
Yeah.
You only have that by connections and relationships, which you're more likely to get in person. Yeah. So I think, it's fundamental.
I mean, that was, somebody said to me the other day, is that your primary competitor is not another agency, it's the company believing they can do it themselves.
100%.
And it's how do you convince a company that actually one of the only ways you convince them is letting them try it. Because you stick an ad on LinkedIn today, you're getting 2,000 candidates apply, with 80% of them using AI generated CVs that look identical, no spelling mistakes, no grammar, no personality either.
No.
But it's like, how do you even start with that kind of, and then you've got the reality is, you've got to do all that work, and you've got no guarantees. Is this person even any good? And I think that, for me, people are like, oh, recruitment's going to be wiped out by AI. I think the opposite. I think the single biggest barrier or issue is, how do I compete with the belief that somebody can just do it themselves? And that's getting harder than ever.
We need to win that battle. We're not winning that battle at the moment, because people think they save money by hiring it directly, but
agencies, please.
Well, exactly. But how do you know you've hired the best person? My argument to companies that I speak to is like, if I find you somebody, that is going to like make you millions or save you thousands or whatever it might be, it's worth a fee. Versus not having seen that individual, which you won't do potentially unless you use us. And I've had a couple of, I won't name names, but I've had a couple of experiences like that recently where I've managed to get a candidate into the process, you know, one candidate, and they've got the job, you know, but most of the time I can't get that candidate into the process because they refuse it because they have to look directly. And obviously recruitment functions are set up in a certain way to save money and to do it directly. And they're the people we're meant to be partnering with. So it makes it tough.
But I mean, I think the issue, and I'm conscious that I don't want to dwell on this subject, but, you know, lots of my friends work in the world of internal TA. And some of them, you know, they've just been through so much over the last 4 years. Hired, fired, rehired, fired again. And it's like they're left going, and this concept of, you know, is an internal TA function worth the effort? I mean, I don't know, but, you know, recruitment is not typically a linear thing, you know, and therefore, look, if you're Facebook, of course, you're going to want an internal function doing it. But really, I'd argue it's a false economy to think that having a bunch of people on 50, 60K is a saving for, you know, and all they're really doing is managing applications.
The other thing is like, you know, the old sort of evolution thing, right? Survival of the fittest. If you are now in recruitment and you're still here, whether or not you're internal or you're an agency recruiter, I think you should pat yourself on the back and say, you know what, I'm pretty good. Because it's been so tough. I was going to use the F word there, but I'm not going to. Family show, right? It's been unbelievably tough for years, right? And what comes out of it is I know for a fact that my firm is miles better than it's ever been in terms of our product, our offering, and how we deliver to our clients in every way. As a result, that's a good thing. You know, I mean, we didn't make any money and we nearly went out of business, but, you know, but we are much better. And we're, you know, if touch wood, if the market does continue to improve, we're well set.
And I think that is the story that I hear more often than the show. And it's certainly my story, which is that, you know, it took us getting battered and bruised to really work out what we were all about. What did we want? What company are we trying to build here? And I think that's been a real lesson for me around, you know, the benefits of hard times, which, you know, it's, you know, people say, you know, you read those cliches and you don't really think that they're true because you think, why, you know, but it is true that actually, you know, it's the hard times that where you learn the most about yourself and your business. But just on that, I'd like to talk about Erupt because one of the central tenets of the interview business is how do I build a product, a service, or a solution that allows me to elevate myself beyond transactional recruitment, bombs on seats, PSL, contingent, whatever, and become a valued partner. And for a lot of people, they're thinking about interested in learning about solutions and products, and I'm sure you don't want to give away your secret sauce. But I'd love to understand a bit more about what you do as an organization beyond traditional contingent staffing. How do you talk to your customers in a language that translates that, you know, effectively?
Yeah. So, I mean, firstly, Erupt, you know, as I said, was 2 different iterations before that. There's a business transformation network, it was HR transformation network. I think that now more than ever, you know, business, especially recruitment, is a marketing function. You know, how can you activate clients? How can you activate candidates en masse? That has to be marketing. I think brand is really important for any recruitment business. So, you know, for us, we created Erupt because it's the self-actualization of growth. Whether that be for an individual or for a company. Rather than being disrupted, we're going to help companies and people to erupt.
Got it.
Right? So that was the preposition. And then who are we targeting? We're targeting companies going through change and transformation because we believe that we are a transformation brand. You know, we supply professionals that, you know, are coming into changing businesses effectively. You know, and then we put on events and we put on content, you know, to case study how companies are transforming. which makes it more valuable to the people that are watching it, and then, through that, we've built an ecosystem of partners that also want to target those sorts of people, so we're not just on our own.
Yeah.
We're with a myriad of different companies, including, like you and yourselves, that are all working together and helping each other. And I think that's where, our business is going. And I think, like I said earlier, we were right at the front of that, but lots of businesses are starting to do that now. You say, what's secret sauce? There's nothing secret about that. It's something that anybody can do, but you've got to really believe in it, and you've got to really, go for it.
And keep at it.
You've got to keep at it. You can't be like, well, I did some content today.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stick it on YouTube, and then 5 years later, hope that you've gone viral. It's not going to happen. It's got to be, relentless.
Mate, and I think, our experience, 80 podcasts are a good example, right? 80% of podcasts fail to make it past 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's because people do it, the initial enthusiasm wears off.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, it's all a bit of a faff.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap, so, whatever. And they can it.
Yeah.
And you're like, now I've had people in here and they're celebrating their 500th episode.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, that's proper.
We have 2,500 videos on our website.
I mean, that's crazy.
It is crazy. I don't know if even people know that they're that's a whole separate question. We're going through a brand evolution at the moment, in terms of like...
And that's just your content that you've generated over the years from industry thought leaders at your conferences and things like that.
And some of it is really good.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of what we've created, And then you've almost got like a library that people can access for free at any point, and hear
and
what
that becomes a lead magnet, right? For you, that's a mechanism to that goes back to you, that value thing. If I give people value, they'll think about me in other ways.
I mean, that's the hope. I mean, but I have noticed recently, like that we did an event with there's this famous thought leader in HR. He's called Dave Ulrich. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's like
the Ulrich model. He's the HRBP guy, right?
He is. That's exactly right. Yeah. So he's viewed as the modern godfather of HR. Right. So obviously he's like a beacon of content. So we did an event with him, and I put out that we're doing this with a bunch of CPOs about the future of the HR target operating model. And obviously that was a select number of CPOs. Now, I've had like 3 or 4 clients come to me as a result on operational model design work that they want us to be engaged with. So you forget sometimes that people do, no matter how many views you've got or whatever on a post, people see it, and it's super important for me now to keep pulsing out, hopefully, relatively quality stuff that adds value and that hopefully makes me and Annapurna memorable.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't, I think you're missing a trick.
On that, is there a blurring of the line between where a recruitment business ends and a consulting business begins, and how much, you toe that line?
Because 100%. If you are a community, 100%. Because if you think about like a Trivial Pursuit cheese, recruitment is one cheese, right? But all the people in community are people that want to sell to from different, different angles. So yes, we could sell consulting.
Yeah.
Yes, we could have let's say a training business, because they're all targeting the same sorts of people.
Yeah.
So 100%, I believe so. And, we were approached previously, by a company, and they wanted to build like a human capital firm. That was actually really cool.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic came and it all went to...
Because I think that is another place where lots of our audience and listeners are... I'm over here in this budget called HR and recruitment. But actually over here in consulting, where EY and Deloitte are charging £3,000 a day for a contractor on 700 and eating the margin themselves, all because they've got a brand. That's all it is, a brand. And that's where I see lots of energy going in our sector, as people are thinking about, can I reposition and rebadge my service as something slightly more sophisticated that perhaps takes me away from this staffing recruitment budget and into this other...
It's a difficult one, because if you bastardize yourself in terms of like different things, that can be an issue in itself. I think you've got to have a very clear way to market, or it can be really dangerous, especially as you're first starting out. There's a lot of money to be made out of recruitment still.
Yeah.
For us, our sort of our tagline now is trusted responsible search. We really believe in search. We think that differentiates us from the internal TA, because they come to us, we can show them market data quickly, activate talent they can't, and obviously we want to be up the food chain as well in terms of fee size. So I think that all companies should be gravitating towards how the mechanism of delivery, and not just thinking about, well, I can make money out of this, I can make money out of that. Well, get your recruitment product right first.
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money. So for us, I think that was a realization that yes, the Erupt is there as a product that supports and does make a revenue stream, but it all should be green in terms of all helps each other. So we do events now that will make us relationships with people we want to make relationships with.
Yeah.
We won't just sell it to a partner to do a bunch of random senior people, which we could do.
Yeah.
It's all got to work for each other. Otherwise it's not very efficient. So I think that's been the sort of realization for us.
Do you consider yourself to be a search firm?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Do now.
Yeah. Did you always?
No.
When
I mean, look, the background we're both from is Contingent.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the thing, and it's high volume, high aggressive contingent, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
We built a product effectively.
Well, that's what I'm interested in, right? Because search, in my opinion, it's as much about your own self-image. You've got to believe. The problem with most contingent recruiters, they don't believe in themselves, in their product. They say things like, we're just another agency.
Yeah.
They're in a dialogue, betrays them at the first opportunity.
But it's not just that. A lot of people say, yeah, we're search firms as well, and they're not.
Yeah.
So for me, and again, maybe the pandemic sort of delivered this, we had to evolve. We had to create extra layers in terms of our service that we delivered to clients to be able to say, yes, we're not just going to come and take a retainer, but, we're going to deliver, a market map that will have milestones in terms of the work that we're doing, that will have, a certain product in terms of how we deliver that is search oriented. And I think there's a big opportunity in that space, because classic search is super expensive, is super slow. I think there's a stat that's something like 53% of all mandates that go to the big five, call them Shrek firms, don't get delivered. That's craziness, So,
they sweep up 100K in fees anyway.
Well, exactly, because they've got some sort of cancellation fee.
Yeah.
So search is the way forward, 100%,
Yeah.
And actually, we've gone to an experience model. So all of our people now are domain experts with typically 5 to 10 years experience in what they're doing. So we can genuinely say we're, trusted, i.e. subject to matter domain experts that will partner with you, and that they will headhunt and activate talent that, is hard to find. It's as simple as that.
Let's just talk about that for a moment, because you've just said there that you now only hire experienced SMEs in this category.
Yes.
That's a departure from your
100%.
Legacy, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Mate, it was tough, right? Because as you know, we were like SThree, we were entry sort of higher model. We developed people with the hope that they would become great. So like the old Starbucks adage, you can't teach something how to smile. We hired on heart.
Yeah.
So we'd hire people that we believe were super driven, so they could be ex-professional sports people or done really well in academia or have some sort of business background. We train them to be great. Now, unfortunately, in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, the economy has found everybody out, and some people self-selected and decided I don't want to be a recruiter anymore, or didn't really know what they wanted to do, or wanted some time out, or more importantly, weren't credible in front of senior clients because you've got an internal team that's now pretty good.
Yeah.
They're not going to use somebody with no or 2 years experience to do that search mandate for them. So we made a decision that we were going to depart from that model, and that was painful. We got up to 110 people at one point, which is quite a lot, really, when you think about it. But coming from an SThree culture where it was always more people equals better.
Seats.
We realised, it gets to a certain age, it's about quality now.
Yeah.
So, we're 40 people, third the size, but we could probably make as much money, if not more, from this headcount and building on that sort of capability than we would having a tail of 30 entry-level people.
Just adding no value to the bottom. Maybe costing you money.
Adding little value.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if the market changed again, you could argue that you could get entry-level people because there's so many jobs out there that would be able to do a job. But that's not our model anymore. And actually, it's really nice. It's nice to be surrounded by people want to be in recruitment and have been there and done it, but still add value. But the thing that amazes me is that there's so much we can still give these people, because most people have come from the transactional firm where they don't maybe know how to question about how to understand a client. And we were talking earlier about what is a solution sale. Well, for me, the biggest fundamental is people that can ask questions, to understand what people are looking for, and then tell them how they can deliver against that. I can't believe how few people can do that. People with 5-10 years experience not able to do it. Because they've been in an environment where maybe it's been that little bit easier because they were, 2020, 2022 when the market was great. But the basics of what you and I would probably have been trained in, what was hard but really great environment, SThree, about understanding, about like open questions, and then, obviously like funneling that down. They don't have that skill set, and it's been a bit of an eye opener for us. But, at the same time, it's really great to coach people and, to see them like learn, new things, that evolves their skills. That's really rewarding for me.
I mean, can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, they're not really new tricks, right?
Yeah.
They're just basic.
But what I mean is, the inherent hesitation about hiring an experienced recruiter is, oh, well, they've either come along and they've been trained the wrong way, or they're not, they failed everywhere else, or whatever your mindset might be. But of course, that in lots of cases, people just were not in good environments.
And that's right. Exactly right.
They were in SME start. They weren't getting the support and training they needed. Yeah, is your experience that those people are open to learning even later on in their career?
Not everybody is, right? But like, still look for the same attributes. I'm still looking for that drive to be better, that resilience, that hunger. But yeah, of course, like people with 5-10 years experience that want to do well can definitely learn. I mean, I'm learning at the moment how to play cricket. I'm a terrible cricketer, but I'm loving being coached. Yeah, and you find the right sort of person that wants to learn and grow. And we're trying to create this culture of coaching. So like Nigel and I do sessions throughout the week, like listening to themes that maybe aren't like working very well. We take them into a room and we have like 30 to 45 minutes, like bit of like theory, but also just talk us through the examples of what you're doing, and just like, that culture of coaching. I think that's really powerful. You look at successful businesses, successful sports teams, they're continuously trying to improve.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we want from our people, and hopefully that's the reason why people might come and work with us.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess like finally, look into the future. We talked about AI, we talked about community, we talked about the change in the market, but what are you seeing out there today? You very candidly said that you got up to 110 and now you're down to 40. That seems to be the common thread that I hear, that people say we're half the size we were in the peak of the madness in 2021.
Yeah.
But we're far better than we were today than we were then.
Yeah.
But it's been a tortuous and traumatic journey to get here.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, is so true. And look, some companies weren't decisive enough, and it cost them big. It cost them everything.
Some great firms.
Some great brands, right? Gone.
Yeah.
What lessons have you taken from that period, and how do you think you might apply them to the next leg of your journey?
As an individual, I'm probably a different person than I was 4 years ago, for a variety of different reasons, but I think mostly from the better. I think the ability to sort of like listen, to others, like, and to work together to, as I said, to try to improve. I think that's everything. I think maybe previously I had this like mindset that I was right.
Yeah.
Let's just go and do it. Which there's some good. That's actually not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to create a culture of togetherness. So I think for me, it's about finding like-minded people that want to be with you, and helping them grow. If you do that, then, I don't think you're going to go too far wrong. And, what do I see for the future? Well, there's no doubt that sort of technology is right here, right now. But as I said earlier, I think if you can provide that human element, then you would do really well. And there's a big swathe of business out there in search. Yeah, even in contingent search, it doesn't have to be like 400k role.
Yeah,
there are rock hard roles to fill at 50k.
Yeah,
they're super specialist, where you should be, saying, look, I can deliver this for you, and I can show you what the market looks like, and I can like headhunt all these people. But obviously, that's a retained search, so I should be retained.
Yeah.
That is what I think your product should be into the future. I think if we have that, then I think there's still a lot of market share to be taken. And to your point, I think humans are always going to be needed in the recruitment process. I think that TA functions are probably going to get smaller. You know, as a result of what we've seen in terms of technology and automation, and they're going to change and evolve. So they're going to look for mile deep, inch wide,
inch wide, mile.
Got it the right way around.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to need that.
Yeah.
And that's what I said earlier about not trying to do too much. It's like you've got to be really specialist at what you do.
Yeah.
And you've got to be seen as good. And you've got to have a brand. You've got to take that to market.
Yeah.
But if you do, I think you can do pretty well.
On that note, James, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that. Thanks for coming.